LOHAS actually is not owned by anybody. So LOHAS is a Creative Commons brand, and the actual spread of LOHAS has never been marshalled. Nobody's tried to organise this. In the past, you know, if I was working in L'Oreal, I'd be trying to organise this and be very pleased with these as results for 8 years' work. But the fact is, it's happened naturally. The consumers have taken it in Asia, they've adopted it, and they like it. And I'm trying to understand a little bit more about why they like it, but my feeling is, and it's just my opinion, is that LOHAS is relevant. The description is seen by the Asian consumer as a relevant description of a lifestyle that they would like. So it's a very positive word, and all its connotations are extremely positive. So lifestyles of health and sustainability is very hard to find a polarizing aspect to it. So it's all embracing, and it's an ideal. So it's become a very unusual brand in that respect, and not one that I've actually come across before. One that has been derived by consumers, spread by consumers, and is being actively bought by consumers based on their beliefs that nobody else is dictating to them. So where do I come in, and where does LOHAS Asia come in? Particularly, I was very interested once I saw this spread to try to understand, can we take LOHAS and use LOHAS as a common language to accelerate sustainability throughout Asia? So we set up, I say we, a couple of funding partners set up Asia Pacific LOHAS as a regional social enterprise. And our intention is to use LOHAS as a vehicle to accelerate the sustainability movement through the current channels of business. Now, just to dissect that a little bit, that is actually very different to how WWF or Greenpeace would approach sustainability. And I have a massive respect for both organisations, contribute, and I'm a member of both. But the way that traditionally we've approached sustainability or the environment is one of saying this is what we shouldn't be doing, and this is what you need to not do in order for us to be sustainable. LOHAS is recognising the fact that people want to consume. And they're recognising the fact that in Asia we have 500 million middle class, if we use $10 million US GDP and above as middle class in Asia. We have 500 million consuming and 3.5 billion not consuming. It's a tidal wave of consumption that is coming that we can't stop. So for us to say to the 3.5 billion, hold on, you're not going to consume until we've sorted this 500 million out and told them what they can't consume, then you can come in and start consuming, is never going to work, in my opinion. The LOHAS approach may work, and that is to try to find an aspirational model of consumption that so happens to also be sustainable. And if we can crack that, then you consume away. Enjoy your modern life, enjoy everything that we have, create your own wealth, and better yourself, which is the natural human state. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to embrace what humans want to do, which is to better themselves, better their lives, better their families' lives, but try to make a way that this can be sustainable. So what we then have to do is try to get a few facts on the table and then use that research and that data to try to engage all the parties that can help this become a reality. Where I am the same as Greenpeace and WWF is when I talk about the consequences of not doing this. Because frankly, if we don't do this, then we are all screwed. Because just to imagine 4 billion people plus consuming in the current way we consume, it just is impossible to sustain. And there will be ramifications that we really haven't quite grasped. And I'm not necessarily talking about climate change or anything like that. I'm talking about economic realities of resource use being, resource intensity being such that nobody can afford it. We're going to be polarizing. We're seeing it already again with the food prices going up. So there is a real reason for doing this. But let's get back to data. First point, therefore, was to put a stick in the sand and to say, okay, what do we have in Asia? Because this research has never been done. We've got 10 years of LOHAS research in the States and 8 years of research in Japan and one-off big piece of research in Western Europe. So the first thing I wanted to do was try to say, okay, where do we compare, broadly speaking, in Asia versus those markets and versus those geographies? So we commissioned some research to the start this time last year, so Q1 2010. Which means it's still valid probably for another 6 months in terms of it being current. Then it will just become interesting. And these are the markets we chose. We purposely excluded Japan and Japan and Taiwan, because we know that LOHAS is big there already. So we needed to try to get an understanding outside of that. Each market, in fact, how we've done the panel is it's really about cities. So when you look at Malaysia, actually it's a KL survey. When you look at Indonesia, it's a Jakarta survey. So we have 1,000 minimum per market or per city. And then in China, we've done 5 cities with geographical spread, and in India, 3 cities, a similar story. I wanted to put that in perspective. When I was working in L'Oreal and we would commission a survey, it would be 450 people for a city. 450 people, I would push the button on a launch. So it's a statistically very significant number to use per panel. As I mentioned just before, we collected it online, and there is a reason for that, apart from it being easier, which is obviously helpful because it's faster, but it also deliberately skews us to the consumers. It will filter out 2 segments of the population that at this stage we're not that interested in. The very rich, they don't fill out any online survey, they don't even look at their email. Those who are just trying to become into the middle class are not on broadband, are not connected, and so we're streaming in this consuming class. We need to try to profile their behaviour. So the research gives us 5 segments of the market, and these 5 segments can be used in terms of understanding how you would approach the market, how you access it. So LOHAS itself as a consumer segment are early adopters of sustainability technology. I like to call them the most highly evolved consumers, and basically they have equal regard in their purchasing decisions for their personal and planetary health. I'll give you a bit of a description in a minute of how the path to LOHAS can happen. Naturalites as a segment are more concerned at this stage of their lives with their personal health. So their primary motivation for purchasing is this universe, is the me universe, not the we universe, which is where the LOHAS has evolved into. Drifters, the biggest segment in any market, Asia being no different, are those who are buying on trend. They're the most influenced by media and marketing, and they tend to be a bit younger. And conventionals are pragmatic, conservative in attitude, not necessarily in their political view or in their age, which often this would denote an older person. It's an older mentality, not necessarily person. And the unconcerned are just that. They're unconcerned on our metrics. So they're not considering the environment in any of their purchases in any way.